In this section of the video, we're going to be painting the artificial wood duck head. To start, we're going to be using Rust-Oleum Automotive Primer. We're going to be giving it 3 coats of primer. You want to give them light coats. See, we're shaking the can really good. Very important. Again, we're just going to give it 3 coats. You can see I do have gloves on. I have a white suit on to help protect my skin when I'm doing this. Giving it another coat. You can see we're in an industrial spray booth for this step. You want to be in an area with really good ventilation. These are the paints we're going to be using. As we use each one of these paints, it will be on your screen for your reference. We're just letting our head dry a second. You want to let that dry for about 15 minutes to an hour, depending on how warm or cold it is outside. But you want it to be completely dry, that primer, before you start painting. This is the spray booth we're going to be using. You can see where it's manufactured and the phone number is right there. Again, you want to make sure you're working in a well ventilated area. That's very important. If you don't have a spray booth like this, you can work outside or maybe inside of a garage with the door open, but you want good ventilation. This is the airbrush we're going to be using. This is a Pache H airbrush. You can see a number 1 and a number 3 tip, but we're going to be using a number 1 tip, and we're going to be using the glass jar. This is a really good airbrush to get started with. It's an easy airbrush to learn and to use. Other airbrushes will work great, but this is what we're using for this part of our course. Now we're starting with our Super Hide White Polytranspar paint. And we're going to be painting the entire bill white. You want 100% coverage of the bill with this white. Now on the underneath side, if you don't get it 100%, it'll still work because we're going to be painting that black. But I like to put it down, it kind of evens everything out. We're giving it another coat of off-white. You can also use Super Hide White for this, either one will work. Now we're going to be using Life Tone Gill Red. And this is, again, lacquer based paint. See, we're just painting it right along the side of the bill. The video is doing much of the explaining for us. You can see how I adjusted it there with my finger. You can do that throughout the process and make sure you get the right flow. I'm getting on those edges really good too with this. And that's important because that's going to give our paint some depth. Because we're going to be putting yellow there and we're going to be putting a little bit more white there. And that's what makes the difference between a great paint job on a wood duck head and an okay paint job. You want that that line between those paints to be blurred just a little bit. This is just another angle. Again, we're putting that Life Tone Gill Red lacquer on the other side. You can see I'm just kind of slowly working it out. I'm not making a real definite line out into that white. That makes it so it doesn't look painted, and that's the whole thing here. We want to make it look like it's not been painted. If you have definite lines on a wood duck head, it looks like it's been painted. You want to have some kind of a transitional area between the colors, and that's why airbrushing is superior for painting a head rather than hand brushing. Okay, now we're painting the black on the end of the bill. And you'll see where to fill that in on the bill. There's a little area there that's all painted black. I've got two screens up so you can see me doing the exact same step but from two different angles. You can see I'm holding that airbrush too really good in this step. Some people call it the toenail of the bill. I just call it the end of the bill. Again, you start from the center and you kind of work out as you're painting. You have your safe area, then you work out from that, rather than trying to paint the whole thing with just one shot. And we're painting the underside of the bill. And most of this all gets painted black. You can leave a little bit of a white haze under there if you want. Normally we paint it almost 100% black. Again, this is jet black that we're using right now. Life tone lacquer. Okay, now we're painting right on the center of the bill. Between the nostrils, we're not connecting with the black. You can see we're leaving some of that white between the red and the black. That's very important. We're back with our off-white or super hide white, either one. I think in this case we're using super hide white. And I'm just cleaning up on that edge. I want to have a little bit of a white, I guess you could say, line between the orange I'm going to be putting on and that gill red. Again, that makes it look like it's not painted, and it gives us a real nice transition. If you would just paint your gill red and your golden yellow together on this edge, your golden yellow would look orange. And we don't want that. We want that yellow to be coming through strong right up to the red. So that's why we're putting the white on here. When we put our golden yellow on that white, it's going to come through as golden yellow, not orange. And we have our golden yellow, and we're painting almost all of the area that we painted white with golden yellow, leaving just a slight little line between the two of that white. You can barely see it on here. Again, if that golden yellow gets on the red, you have orange, and we don't necessarily want that. A little bit of that is okay because it's a nice transition, but we really don't want that. This is another shot of our setup. Okay, now we are putting on our base coat sealer, and this is our gloss top coat. Now I say gloss loosely because it's not really a gloss, but it's going to protect our paint. We're going to be giving it 3 coats of this. You want to give it at least 10 to 15 minutes between coats to cure out. Again, it's going to have some shine throwing off of it, and that's fine. Duckbills are wet quite often if they're in the water. This will dissipate away and dull up a little bit over time though, because it's not a gloss, it's a sealer. But it's very important that we use that. And here is a picture of our finished head. Just letting it cure out in the paint booth. I like to let them cure out for at least an hour or two, preferably overnight, before I use them. You can just see how all the colors came together. It's a relatively simple process, but by using some of our tricks, it makes it a lot easier.